Hello and welcome to episode 7 of Wrestling with Anime. I'm Paul.
And I'm Dave.
So, I had David watch Summerslam 2000.
Yes, and I had Paul watch Garo, the Vanishing Line from 2007.
2000? Okay, I thought it was later than that. Anyway, let's start off with SummerSlam. So, SummerSlam 2000 took place August 27th, 2000, bringing in $1.1 million at the gate. 18,128 people in attendance for an average ticket price of $60.68, with 570,000 televisions tuned in at home.
Nah, that doesn't surprise me too much, showing off all the additional stuff over in New York.
Oh, yeah, so we're going to have to talk about WWF New York.
Yeah,
I'm not looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Anyway, our first match up is Right to Censor versus Too Cool.
Yes.
Tell me what you thought of Right to Censor.
They seem like bad guys. I also kind of thought that they were kind of jerks. So their typical sort of match with everything sort of made a decent enough sense. Too Cool, I kind of thought was a little ridiculous, but I think that's the point. It's kind of their shtick. I did like the one guy's hair. I believe it was Scott, additional name. But then, of course, Rikishi?
Yes.
Rikishi was awesome. Rikishi was just awesome with everything within that match.
Yeah.
So he owned whatever he needed to do.
Yeah. So it starts off with Steven Richards cutting a promo and getting interrupted by Too Cool. Too Cool comes out and they are crazy over. Yeah. Like the crowd just pops crazy for them.
Yeah. Well, I think it would have been the case of if anyone was going up against Right to Censor, they would most likely get cheers.
Steven Richards has the greatest pissed off face ever. Because I don't know how he does it, but it's like his jaw, like his bottom jaw kind of comes out, and it's just, it's great.
Pointier the jaw, the more angry the face.
And it's just like, he looks like he's just seething. It's great. King at one point during the match says he wants Right to Censor to drink the Kool-Aid, thus committing suicide, and I'm like, I'm not a fan of King sometimes. Rikishi near the end of the match is just a house of fire. He's just laying everybody out, and it's really cool.
Oh, that was great bit of it. I think the only other thing I really noticed within that match was the Scotty crossbody.
Oh, yeah.
Comment that came up. And it was like, oh, okay. If it ever comes to a particular bit of making up a wrestling move, that's a supposed candidate.
So Right to Censor ends up going over after a super kick by Steven Richards.
Yeah.
It's a decent little opener. It's relatively fast-paced, and they don't overstay their welcome.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
We then get a recap of the Kurt Angle, Stephanie McMahon storyline.
Yes.
And then we have Shane cut a short promo backstage before getting scared off by Steve Blackman.
I was kind of like, okay, we're talking about this one person, and he runs off. It's like, okay, bye. What was that about?
We'll find out soon enough.
Yeah.
Next up is Road Dogg versus X-Pac. Road Dogg cuts a short kind of nothing promo.
Yeah.
The thing I noticed in this match, and I haven't watched a lot of stuff from this time recently, X-Pac was such a good athlete.
Yeah.
The stuff he does is just crazy.
Yeah. On the whole, I sort of caught the whole vibe that they sort of placed this match at as stuff happened in the past that made them rivals and whatnot and all those particular things. But no, out of the two, X-Pac was very athletic with all the stuff that he did. It was very impressive.
Yeah, X-Pac ends up going over after kind of a nothing match. It's not really good.
Well, it's kind of a case of they're sticking with the friendly rival bout of things. He does the bad thing and sort of expects, okay, this will sort of end it, everything will all be good, but Road Dogg does not take it well.
Yeah, after the match, Road Dogg hits the pump handle slam on X-Pac and then leaves.
It's like, okay, so that happened. Did it fix the thing? Are they still rival things? How's this gonna end? Who knows?
So after that, they put over Vinny's Steakhouse, and I don't know why.
Yeah, advertisement for a particular thing around in the area.
Yeah, but it makes no sense, because if you're in the arena and you're in the city that you could go to that restaurant, you don't see the ad. So you're only seeing it if you're at home, and you can't go to the restaurant.
supposed advertisement for tourism of some kind?
I don't know. It just doesn't really make any sense. But,
Meh.
well. Next up.
Well, on that comment, honestly, a lot of things in wrestling probably don't make a hell of a lot of sense, so...
No, they don't.
Yeah.
Next up is Eddie Guerrero and Chyna versus Trish Stratus and Val Venus.
With this one, I recognized Eddie. I can't remember from somewhere, but I recognized him. Not Chyna specifically, but kind of the lovey-dovey angle with everything, and yeah, she definitely looks like she can handle herself in the ring. I was kind of like, Trish is going up against Chyna with the other? Okay, best of luck to you. Don't do anything stupid.
Yeah, so this match is for the Intercontinental title. Again, it's really meant to be a showcase for Eddie and Chyna.
Yeah.
Because, they're just a really great on-screen duo.
Yes.
They're very funny together. I love there's a spot where Trish, finally goes for a clothesline on Chyna, and she just bumps off her own clothesline.
Yeah.
And it's pretty great. Chyna ends up getting the pin and winning the IC title for the second time.
Yeah.
Only woman to ever hold the IC title.
Well, it doesn't surprise me with Chyna, but no, good for her.
Ultimately, everyone ends up looking good coming out of this match because Val put in a hell of an effort. He had his working boots on that night. I also love the little touch where they refer to Chyna as the 9th wonder of the world.
Oh yeah, I do remember him saying that.
Because Andre was the 8th wonder of the world. It's a nice little piece of continuity.
Hooray, continuity!
I love that. It's a little touch that I just love.
That is.
Then we get a Radio WWF/WWF New York promo.
Yeah.
The first of a few.
What?
Okay. So, I think they started WWF New York in 1999.
Okay.
When they were flush with cash.
Okay.
And Vince decided he wanted to have a restaurant in Times Square.
Okay.
So they started a restaurant in Times Square.
Okay.
And they had it for 2 or 3 years. And in its last year, it was renamed The World.
Oh no, I think that's some other place that I'm thinking of. But yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
it was a Vince vanity project that shockingly failed.
Like a decent percentage of the
like
thing
everything he
does?
does that isn't pro wrestling.
Yeah.
Like the XFL, the World Bodybuilding Federation. That was another thing he tried. But that's a story for another day.
Yeah, so true. But definitely brings a decent moniker to just throw things at the wall until they stick.
Yeah. So next up is Taz versus Jerry the King Lawler.
Yeah. They kind of alluded this a little bit in the first, or at the start of it, with the incident that Jerry, I believe was his name, one of the announcers, getting incident with glass in his eye.
JR.
JR, yes.
Yeah.
And just going about all that, kind of retouching on everything just before the match starts. But then the one particular thing I paid attention to was he had a little container candy with him.
Yes.
It's like, he brought that up.
I wonder if that'll be important
I don't
later.
think that's a typical sort of thing. And I'm not sure if it was that. I think it was something that they promoted at one of the start of the matches, but I saw someone smash a glass object over top of their head.
Yep.
And it was like, oh, that's what he's going to do. Okay.
Yeah. So my first note is, goddamn, the King has awesome punches. Because, when he throws a punch, it looks so real. He never actually hits, he doesn't hurt anybody. But just, the way he snaps his fist or something, it looks so goddamn good.
I was kind of the case of, wait, the announcer's fighting the guy now? And he's actually doing decent?
Yes.
Is he actually somewhat of a wrestler, and I forgot about this from Paul's mentionings?
Yes, Jerry the King Lawler was a huge star in the Memphis territory
No.
in, the 70s and 80s. He ended up taking the job as an announcer in WWF.
Okay.
But he was, a huge star as a pro wrestler.
I think the only other question is, what is Taz's deal? Is that just his character, or does he just have problems?
Taz is one of those guys that should have had a better career.
And then he takes it out on other people?
No, the biggest issue with Taz was In ECW, he was like a world beater. He was basically... Paul Heyman was brilliant in that he could go, okay, Taz isn't a tall guy. He's relatively short. But they made Taz just like this unbeatable badass. For like years on, like a year and a half or something, he went undefeated. And he would just choke people out. And then he goes to WWF, the land of the giants. And he doesn't look nearly as impressive. And it kind of screwed Taz's career up.
Okie doos.
But Taz is one of those guys where in ECW, Paul Heyman went with this idea that Taz is effectively an MMA fighter. He's going to suplex people and he's going to choke them out.
Okay.
Taz comes out with his cane. And it's just such great heel work.
Just goes through that whole shtick. It's like, okay, this particular level of insulting the people would probably do. Let's go about 20 levels above that.
It's great. So Jerry pretty quickly in the match hits a pile driver on Taz, which was the King's finish. And Taz just pops up. He like no-sells that move, which is a big deal. Like, for someone like the King to, pile drive someone and then just pop up. That you don't do that if you don't plan on doing something with that guy.
Okay. No, I think mostly it was the case of he goes ahead and chokes him out, but then JR was just like, oh, forget this. Takes the candy, smashes it over his head. It's like, how do you like glass in your eye?
Yeah, JR breaks the jar of candy over Taz's head and King gets the pin.
No. It's like, yay, everyone's happy for a thing. But then it's like, but with Taz, it's most likely going to lead to an additional storyline where he's just going to cause more trouble with all the particular stuff, and it's just going to be non-ending.
So then we cut back to Shane backstage, and he cuts another really short promo before getting scared by Steve Blackman again.
And it's like, are they going to bother explaining what the heck the story is? And then they start the match for it. It's like, oh, okay.
Yes, so next up is Shane McMahon versus Steve Blackman for the hardcore title. Unfortunately, this match is not contested under 24/7 rules.
Because of... Oh no, they were saying that this was kind of a different style and not really any sort of rules to any of it.
Yeah, so it's a hardcore title match, so anything goes.
Yeah.
Prior to this, though, the hardcore title was defended under what they called 24/7 rules, which basically meant that if you were the hardcore champion, you could be pinned at any time, anywhere, as long as there was a referee present.
Okay.
So they, on one episode of SmackDown, they had a hardcore title match in, I think it was called Funland, but it's like one of those kids, there's like a ball pit and swings and all sorts of stuff. They had a hardcore title match in one of those.
Okay. Like in an actual building, or there's a specific building with the place that's...
No, this was like an actual, place you take, little kids and they go through the tubes and all that stuff. They had a hardcore title match there.
That must have been one heck of a day for the kids.
It was pretty great. So Shane sees Steve Blackman and just books through the crowd. He's like, fuck this, I'm out of here.
No, that's pretty much my thought when he booked into that. It's like, oh, execute the one particular meme, fuck this shit, I'm out. And he starts running through all the stuff. It's like, I question whether there are fans or whatnot that are just sort of letting him go or stopping the other guy or trying to stop him being like, oh no, I want to see your ass get kicked.
They start brawling in the crowd, and then they eventually make their way back to the ring, and they do this choking Boston Crab, which is such a cool little spot.
Yeah.
That looks really cool. We get a run-in from Test and Albert, and I immediately go, Albert should have had a better fucking career in the WWF. I mean, Test is the man that Charisma forgot, but...
Yeah, just sort of a case of, as soon as I heard McMahon within the entire thing, I was just like, oh, Daddy sent in some help, or someone on his payroll decided to help out his son.
Yes, and then Shane starts to climb.
Yeah, they climb up on that particular stuff, and with me seeing a couple of stunt shows and kind of understanding the base thing of stuntman work, I was kind of like, okay, they're probably going to do a big thing, and then he falls. So it's like, oh no, he's falling. Smash. It's like, oh, he fell into the thing that they supposedly set up for him to fall into. Oh, goodness.
It's still, a crazy spot to do.
No, that's definitely true.
especially for someone like Shane. Because, like, he doesn't have to... He's Vince McMahon's son.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to take that risk. And if that... I think the worst part about Shane's bump here is that he just falls backwards.
He's smart with how he falls. He falls in the proper stuntman sort of way, where if you know it's like, oh, he's gonna be fine. Where you don't know, it's like, oh my god!
I think the worst part, though, is just, like, falling backwards like that. You can't see anything, and it almost would be scarier.
Nah, I suppose that's true.
And then Blackman's like chasing Shane up, and then Shane bumps, and then Blackman immediately slides down about 20 feet before he does his elbow drop.
Because, despite how crazy he seems with all of his fighting, he has a microcosm of sense to actually...
He's like, fuck this. We then get Kurt and Stephanie backstage.
Yes.
And Kurt says, oh, Shane's fine, he just had the wind knocked out of him.
On the one hand, it's supposedly true, but on the other hand, you could have sold it better.
It's so great. I love Kurt just being a dork.
Yeah, that's pretty much the instant thing I got when I first saw him from the New York preview that they had.
Yeah, and then Mick Foley walks in, and anytime Mick Foley's on screen, I'm happy.
Duly noted.
We then get Chris Jericho versus Chris Benoit, 2 out of 3 falls match.
Yes.
So what did you think of this?
Yeah. As it is, it would definitely seem like a decent enough match. Again, Chris Benoit, for the most part, since I haven't bothered to do too much research on him, is still decent with all the stuff he does, despite doing that shady thing at the end of the match.
Yeah, so initially Benoit goes up 1-0 with a crossface. Jericho ties it 1-1 with a lion tamer. And then Benoit does one of my favorite moves in all of pro wrestling. That's the tiger suplex.
Okay.
It's where he puts him in the full Nelson and then he goes, like, he throws him back.
Yes.
I love that move, and I wish more people would do it, but I understand why they don't.
Because of the flexibility that's needed to actually pull that off?
The flexibility of the person doing it, and the person taking it, if you're off by, like, an inch, you're landing on the top of your head.
Yeah, that's definitely not fun.
So Benoit ends up going over with some help from the bottom rope.
Yes, which supposedly is a bad thing. I question why. Just because of him gripping it, or does that give him some sort of leverage for it?
The idea is that if you grab the rope, it gives you extra leverage.
Ah.
Yeah. So, shockingly, Benoit and Jericho have a great match.
No. Turned out decent.
And then Triple H decides to arrive halfway through the pay-per-view.
Because as you do.
And then we get arguably the most famous match from this show. The TLC Tag Team match.
Yes, the whole group of things. Sadly, with this one, and the time I decided to kind of work on watching this, I was starting to kind of get a bit burnt out. So there were moments, but it was kind of the case of fading a little bit.
So
this match.
This match is the Dudley Boys versus Edge and Christian versus the Hardys.
Yes. So I vaguely remember seeing Christian and Edge from a couple of matches, and supposedly they hold the title, and they're decent with a couple things I've seen, but I'm not exactly sure what the case is with the Dudley Boys or the Hardy. Yeah, the Hardy Boys.
Okay, so the Dudleys were a team that came in from ECW, which was a promotion ran by Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
They basically are arguably one of the greatest tag teams of all time.
Not just with their communication and everything I saw within the ring. That definitely makes sense.
And I always loved their little gimmick of Devon Get the Tables. Because it's a great little thing for the crowd to sing along with. And it's a cool moment. The Hardys basically got their first job in the WWF when they were like 16.
Okay.
They had their own promotion called Omega.
Okay.
And they're both, I think, a little bit crazy. You'll see, considering some of the things they do in this match.
Yeah, that's true, but again, it's kind of a TLC match. You're just asking for craziness.
So, my first note for this match is Jeff Hardy is like human ragdoll physics. Because, he takes, a relatively simple move early in the match and he just kind of, crumples.
Nah.
And it's really cool. Christian ends up eating a 3D through a table.
Yeah.
Which is like the lightest bump anybody's going to take in this match.
Yeah.
The Dudley stacked tables on the outside, and I'm sure that won't come back to bite anyone later.
Yeah, when it's sort of set up all the tables there, it's like, oh my god, tableception.
Yeah, because they do like the 2 layers of tables.
2 layers of tables.
Christian gets thrown into the ladder that Edge was sandwiched in, and that's like a really cool spot.
Oh, yes. I thankfully kind of was woken up by everyone freaking about that moment.
And that's a pretty light moment in this match.
Yeah.
Then Jeff Hardy decides to swanton bomb through some tables on the outside.
Yes.
I forget who's laying on the table at the time, but they just roll out of the way and Jeff takes the bump.
Yes. I think it was one of the Dudley boys that was there.
I think it might have been Devon.
Okay.
But I'm not 100% sure. Bubba bumps through the table stack on the outside.
Yes. One table survives, surprisingly enough.
Kind of. Lita runs in and ends up bumping Edge and Christian. You've never seen Lita before.
I did notice her, and it's like, okay, it's one of the Hardy Boys' girlfriends or something?
Kinda, yeah. Matt takes a crazy bump through more tables on the outside, again, where he just falls backwards.
Just like, whee!
Edge spears Lita on the outside.
Yeah.
And Jim Ross has an aneurysm.
Oh, yeah.
Damn Edge! Devon is holding on to the thing that holds the belts.
They were both holding on.
Yeah, it's him and Jeff.
Yeah.
But Devon falls off first.
Yes.
And then Edge and Christian grab a ladder and start whacking Jeff Hardy down.
Yeah.
It's pretty great.
Not just a little bit. It sort of had the mild question of, how are they still all hanging up there if they're just holding on to it? It's like, oh wait, it's a whole big system where you hold on to the one section, it doesn't open up, but if you pull it right, then it opens up.
Yeah. Edge and Christian retain their tag team titles.
Yeah.
In the first ever tag team TLC match.
Yeah.
Then we get Triple H and Stephanie backstage.
Yeah. With all that drama.
And then we get the worst match on the show.
Yeah.
Which is the Cat versus Terry, and we're not going to talk about this because it's terrible.
I just sort of question why was this a thing? Like, on the one hand, I understand the move and motivation behind those sorts of things, but again, I kind of question why.
Because this was the state of women's wrestling in 2000 in the WWF.
How far?
And the only reason I didn't say, like, oh, skip this match is I wanted to use it to illustrate a point. Because I had you watch a Sasha Banks Bayley match a couple of times ago.
Yes. And
it's like, that took place in, like, 2015.
Something a bit more recent.
Yeah. So, shockingly, they've actually gotten better with their portrayal of women. It only took them, like, 30 years.
Well, the other thing was, before this was shown, was the match with Eddie and Chyna and whatnot. And that was a bit more in comparison to the other match you showed me with Terry, I believe you mentioned.
Yes.
With all that sort of stuff. And it was like, okay, decent sort of match with tag team sort of match with that sort of thing. And then I saw this match and I'm just like, I'm not surprised, but still, why?
Yeah.
The only other thought I particularly had was when they sort of showed the history of the match, with Kat having to deal with all that stuff from other matches, but then winning in the end. It's just like, well, good for you for actually winning that sort of thing, but still, why does this exist?
I have exactly 2 notes on this, and it's Perry Saturn and Al Snow deserve better than this. The Cat goes over, I guess, but nobody looks good.
Yeah.
It's nothing.
Yeah.
Then we cut back to WWF New York again, and then we get ready for Undertaker versus Kane.
Yeah.
Now, Undertaker versus Kane might not be the most technical match.
Yeah, no.
It's basically just 2 big bastards beating on each other.
Like 2 brothers.
And I love it for its simplicity.
Yeah.
Because it's just 2 big bastards beating on each other.
Yeah. I think the only other amazing thing was, with Kane, I'm not sure if it was just the camera work that the guys did or Kane himself working with it, but never once did they really show his entire face in his entirety after the mask came off.
That was intentional.
Oh, okay. Mostly with the camera work as well as Kane working with keeping the hair in his face.
Yes.
It was just like, nah, that worked out fairly decent. Good job, camera workers.
Yeah, so they have never... Up to this point, they had never revealed what Kane looked like.
Okay.
That had been a secret for like 3 years at this point.
Okay.
I kind of hate that idea, because the minute you have a masked guy and you're like, oh, he's so disfigured under that mask, you can never reveal him.
Yeah,
because you can't live up to the expectation.
Unless you actually want to go as far as going to the expectation, but then that kind of puts a lot of things into question.
Yeah, and ultimately when they do reveal Kane's face, it's a letdown.
Oh, sadness. Anyway, I think the only other particular thing is that I'm not sure if you show me any of those earlier matches with The Undertaker, but it's kind of like, okay, this was Undertaker in the early 2000s or so.
Yes.
This seems kind of weird.
Yes, he was in his American Badass phase.
Yes.
Where he decided to become a biker.
Okie doos.
Even though before that he was a mortician.
Okay.
Don't ask.
Yeah.
He was a mortician zombie who became a biker. Don't ask.
I sort of also questioned with how this match sort of went of everyone being like, oh man, Undertaker is a monster. How long was it from this match until he sort of adopted his, the best thing I can say is sort of undead, alter persona that he's typically known for?
So prior to American Badass, he did the undead thing.
Okay.
And then after American Badass, he went back to being undead.
Okay.
Like I said, it's complicated.
Dude, it's flippin' wrestling.
Undertaker keeps going for the mask, and then Kane gets unmasked, and Undertaker celebrates because the bell never rang and this match didn't happen. So nothing really gets accomplished.
Aside from, like, their particular emotional things, but yeah, that doesn't mean a lot in wrestling, so...
I still like this match a lot, because again, it's just two big bastards beating on each other.
No, on the whole, it actually turned out to be pretty good. It was definitely a nice improvement over the last match.
Well, anything would have been. I could have had a better match with Justin.
Yeah.
So then we cut back to Stephanie and Triple H are backstage, and Kurt decides to call Stephanie on her cell phone. And she has to pretend that it's her mom.
And then she hands the phone over to Triple H, and he's just like, well, I'm not doing a woman voice, click.
He's like, that's weird, your mom hung up on me. Yeah. So we get to the main event. Kurt Angle versus Triple H versus The Rock.
Yes. And just kind of like, oh man, two guys with drama, and then they just throw The Rock in there.
Well, the sad part is The Rock is the champion.
Yeah.
And he's kind of forgotten in the build-up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From what I sort of thought, it's like, this wouldn't surprise me as this was just kind of the build-up to Triple H kind of taking over things and becoming the big honcho of stuff.
Well, and, I mean, The Rock doesn't exactly need a ton of promotion because he's crazy over at this point.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Kurt Angle's still relatively new to the company.
Yeah.
And Triple H is starting to ascend to a main event spot.
Alrighty.
So, yes, Triple H and Kurt have a bit of a fight before the bell starts.
Yeah.
And Angle gets dropped on the outside. So Triple H goes to pedigree Kurt through the announce table.
Yes.
And the announce table gives out, like, 5 seconds too early.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, fuck. So Angle decides to just lay there on the floor. Because he's just like, fuck this. So Angle ends up getting stretchered out. And The Rock comes out, and Triple H and Rock brawl in the entranceway. And I just love the Stephanie Kurt storyline. Like, I wish they would have gone all the way with that, because it was so much fun.
Yeah, I suppose. I think with how much they sort of showed it off, I was kind of like, okay, go somewhere with this, get to the point of it, or stop showing it off too much, because seriously, it's starting to get annoying.
So, this storyline was dropped allegedly. Now, I don't have proof of this, but allegedly because Triple H went into the writer's room and was like...
Overhearing the subject of things, or kind of put his own word into it?
No, he went in and was like, well, basically, nobody would believe that Stephanie would leave me for Kurt, because, I mean, look at Kurt.
Yeah.
I
don't know. It's somebody's cup of tea, I suppose.
Kurt is so good.
Yeah.
And, like, he's been in the company at this point, I think, less than a year.
Mm.
And he's this good already. So Stephanie comes out to check on Kurt, and then leaves, and then comes back to ringside, and then Stephanie inadvertently hits Triple H with the title.
Yeah.
And then Stephanie goes backstage to get Kurt.
It's like...
And Kurt's, like, half dead.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, it's like, oh, Kurt, you have to help out Triple H. You did. He's like, okay, I'll do it for the love. And then he goes off and does the thing.
Yeah, and then, like, at a certain point, like, Kurt's just like, oh, wait, I could fucking win the title here.
Woo!
And then Triple H inadvertently drops Steph with a right.
Yeah. I was kind of like, ooh, if you didn't have a rocky relationship before, this is probably going to help with that.
And then The Rock throws Kurt out of the ring, hits a people's elbow on Triple H, and retains his title.
Yeah.
And then at the very end of the show, Kurt carries Stephanie out to the back.
Yes, just like Triple H did in one of the matches earlier when the other thing was. It's like,
yep.
Oh, it's all full circle. The drama's going to be tremendously crazy after this.
Yeah. I really wish they had gone farther with the Kurt Stephanie line. The whole thing.
Like, she actually sort of confesses her feelings or have feelings for him?
Yeah. Actually go all the way.
Okay.
Because it ends up just kind of fizzling out and not being as cool as it could have been.
Nah, I suppose. Because then it could have made more drama and then more fighting with the other things.
Well, I mean, it didn't happen because it would have made Triple H look bad, and we can't have that happen.
That inadvertently happened later on, but I guess that's for different reasons.
So that was SummerSlam 2000.
Yeah.
What did you think?
Yeah, it could have been a hell of a lot worse.
Okay, did you have a favorite match?
I think out of all of them, I think it might have been the Intercontinental match with Eddie and Chyna.
Okay.
I kind of enjoyed that one with everything that sort of happened. But yeah, as it sort of sits, I think worst-wise, it just had to be with Kat and Terry.
Oh, yeah,
just
by far.
Yeah, why? Seriously. I think the only other thing is I probably should have been a bit smarter about this and actually seen most of this in sections, so I didn't kind of get burned out during one of the crazier matches with the TLC match.
Yeah. So is there anybody on the show that you'd want to see more of?
Well, out of everyone, it sort of was a team sort of case. Rikishi, as it is just amazing with the couple stuff he did, but again, I'm not too sure how much they premiere him with stuff. There wasn't really that much I sort of saw with Road Dogg or X-Pac. Again, with X-Pac, it was definitely good for the work that he did and how athletic he was, but I was kind of like, I'd like to kind of understand how this storyline goes, but I probably won't lose sleep over it. With anything with Eddie Guerrero,
Guerrero.
Guerrero, thank you. I'd definitely be up for seeing anything else he's in, as well as Chyna, since she definitely can handle herself in the ring. Yeah, not so much with Taz. Like, Taz just seems kind of crazy. I suppose at most I kind of like to see his origins before he fell into the WWE with all that sort of stuff, but yeah, aside from that. I was actually interested to sort of see with Steve Blackman what sort of stuff he does. Just since he was sort of trying to get his title back from Shane McMahon and whatnot, to see other sort of matches that he was in. Because again, he's nuts, but it's kind of a nuts style match, so
yeah,
it makes kind of sense with that. Now I'm pretty much good for seeing just about anyone within the TLC match.
Okay.
I'm not too sure how well liked Christian and the Edge are, but
Christian and Edge are fantastic.
Yeah, they're alright with most of the stuff there.
At some point, you're going to see a bunch of segments of them.
For
example, at one point, they just start playing kazoos. Just because.
Of course.
They also do this gimmick where, because it's the late 90s, early 2000s, everybody would take cameras to the arena. So they would do a 5-second pose for the benefit of those with flash photography.
Hokey doos.
They were pretty great.
Yeah. But yeah, aside from that, all the other names are kind of typical mainstays, and no one was really terrible with the rest of the matches. So, on whole, it could work.
What about like a Chris Jericho or Chris Benoit?
As it sits with Chris Benoit, before I discover the horrible, horrible truth that's most likely hidden about him, he definitely seems good for the shtick that he kind of has in the ring. And Chris Jericho, on whole, he's fairly decent within that match. Again, I'll probably have to wait and see what sort of stuff he goes through as well. But, it hasn't gotten to any sort of point that's like, oh, that person, no.
Yeah, so you're going to end up watching a lot more Benoit matches.
Why am I not surprised?
I can pretty much guarantee that. The one thing I always loved about Benoit is everything. All his moves look really good, and he has like just this intensity about him.
Right it goes.
So I think that's it for SummerSlam, unless you have anything left to add.
Nope. Oh, aside from the amazing graphical design they had for the couple of advertisements they showed off.
Oh yeah, Chef Boyardee.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty, so you had me watch Garo Vanishing Line.
Yes.
I watched 4 episodes of this.
Yes.
That originally aired in 2017.
Yes, and my apologies for earlier, but yes, this anime premiered in 2017 last year, not 2007. But this anime is based off the long-running live-action series of Garo, which first started around 2005 or so. So, essentially the idea that was made from this was, what if we take the basic idea of a Monster of a Week concept from Power Rangers, but give it a couple more mature overtones?
I have issues with calling this show mature.
Well, mature in the sense of horrible body disfigurement, blood, and mature themes that are decently immature if you're too young.
Okay, so I watched 4 episodes. Sword, Luke, Gina, and Brother.
Yes.
Okay, so I watched Sword, like the first episode, I watched that one day, and then I watched the other 3 another day.
Radios.
I really loved Sword.
I'm not too surprised. He was one of the reasons I was sort of intrigued of the episode.
I love the episode. It's so over the top and ridiculous, and it's normally I hate anime that has these like really over the top fight sequences, but here they're just embracing the absurdity of it, and I love it.
Yeah, definitely.
I love how he has like a talking ring that somehow becomes his motorbike.
That is the basis of the main Goro line, where every person that works as the Makai Knight has this guardian person watch over them as well as give them their power.
Yeah, so he somehow also has this like golden armor that he puts on. It's bloody good.
Well, being the Makai Knight of the time, it's given to him to give him the power to actually take out these monsters.
Yes, the horrors.
Yes.
So the first episode, he ends up protecting this, like, I think she's meant to be like 13, 14.
Very young girl by Sophie.
Yeah, who has gone off looking for something about her brother and El Dorado.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes to this person who she thinks is a psychic, but ends up being a horror.
Yeah.
And Sword has to deal with said horror.
Yes.
And he eats a massive steak.
Yes.
And I had a great time with it. And my initial thing was, at the end of the episode was, oh crap, they're not going to bring Sophie back. Because she was a one-off character. That was my initial thought.
Okay.
So then we move to Luke.
Yes.
And I love at the beginning of the episode where he fires his gun in the air and it starts to rain and everybody forgets about what happened. That's really cool and that's really smart.
Yeah.
Because it gives you an out if you do some like city destroying thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Overall, we meet Hardy, who is like a former champion runner, and he's now crippled, and he allows himself to be possessed, and I didn't really care much about him. I just didn't find him terribly interesting.
I mostly sort of see it as a way of sort of explaining how these sorts of things happen.
Yeah.
What sort of person to watch out for being a horror, and to sort of give an idea of how that sort of thing works within the universe.
Yeah, no, it works in the sense that it gives you like a quote-unquote villain that's sympathetic.
Meh.
Because you understand his motivations.
Yeah, yes.
So, I mean, it's not like it's a bad episode. It's just like, yeah, it's not as good as the first one. I didn't have as much fun with it.
Yeah, that's true. I think this was a bit more, again, like the title, showing off Luke's potential of what he can do for assisting with taking out the horrors.
Yes. And then we go to the episode Gina.
Yes.
And this was an episode I loved. It was so on point for me.
Radios, just with Gina as a character, or how everything sort of
The
unfolded?
whole thing, it's just so stupid, but I loved it.
Stupid as in how, with all the stuff.
Okay, so it's basically Gina's going to do a Die Hard mission.
Radios,
She's going to go through this building to get to the top floor to get some information.
Yeah.
And Sword's going to help her, and it's this ridiculous thing where she's going undercover and has to get this, like, mob boss's DNA.
Yeah.
And it's so delightfully absurd.
Just with everything that she does to get to her end goal.
Well, and just she kisses the guy, and then she has this little thing that she puts her lips on, and it extracts his DNA.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's amazing. Like, that's incredibly dumb, but I love it.
Well, what did you think of Gina's introduction when she meets with Sword?
I don't remember how that went.
She meets Sword by hitting him with a vehicle.
Oh yeah.
It's like, well, that's a great way to say hi to a friend.
Okay, so then we move to the episode Brother, where Sophie's roommate tells her that Father Ripley went missing, and Sophie goes out to investigate, and I'm like, yes, Sophie's back. I actually like that character. And long story short, she ends up getting, like, thrown in this basement by some nun, who ends up being a horror.
Yes.
Who killed this Father Ripley dude.
Yes.
And I immediately thought of Ripley from Alien, but...
Yeah, that kind of happened with that sort of stuff, but it sort of built up the story of Sophie becoming more of a partner character with Sword to try and get her mystery solved.
Yeah, and they keep bringing up El Dorado.
Yes.
That's basic. Also in the previous episode, that's what gets Sword to help Gina. She mentioned something about El Dorado. So yeah, Sophie ends up locked in this basement with all these, like, instruments of torture, and it's, like, super creepy.
Yeah.
And I really love that.
Yeah, it goes there. Just wait until the next episode where I got up to. It starts to head into slightly, sort of stuff.
Sword ends up arriving, and a battle ensues, and he drives his motorbike right up the stairs.
Because, as you do.
Of course. Like, that's the type of show it is, and I love that. I love how over-the-top and ridiculous it is.
Okay, because watching through the couple episodes again to sort of refresh myself with the series and discuss about this, I came across a couple particular things that I remember you having mild issue with, and I was kind of like, is Paul going to be alright with watching the rest of this?
Okay, so they do overly sexualize some of the women, but it's done in a show that's so ridiculous and over the top, it doesn't bother me.
Okay.
Because everything in the show is ridiculous.
Okay.
It's not being treated seriously.
Nah, I suppose. I was thinking more, the one particular scene was in the first episode with Sophie seeing the fortune teller, discussing and starting to touch her hair, heading into the sexual overtones of whatnot. And I remember the last anime that kind of did that a little bit more bluntly and was kind of, Paul might not be too fresh for this.
I didn't mind it, like...
It kind of got a bit more of the point across of something's kind of a bit wrong before hitting to the big wrong of, oh dear, he's a horror.
Yeah, and, like, it's handled better here than it is in a lot of anime.
Okay.
Because here they're not trying to present it as, like, a super serious tone. They're going like, no, this is a stupid 80s action movie.
Right, it goes.
So I have less issues with it because of that.
Okay. So as it sits with everything that the anime's kind of done for these episodes, would you continue watching the series, as well as would you be intrigued about actually seeing the live action versions of this?
I don't see how a live action version of this can work.
Okay.
Because, like, it relies so heavily, it would have to rely so heavily on special effects that it would be like, either it would look shitty, or it would be like the most expensive television show ever made.
No, that's understandable. When sort of looking up a little bit of information about this type of show is known as a tokusatsu series, where it focuses on a lot of the specific special effects. And other specific movies or shows that are related to this are things like Godzilla or Power Rangers show or Sentai, where certain things like different sorts of camera angles or certain sort of special effects change how the show sort of looks. And with seeing a couple of clips from the live action show, it definitely makes sense. But again, I'm not sure how much you are with live action special effects before the realism kind of breaks.
It depends on the show.
Okay.
So, like, I will fully admit that some of the special effects in Buffy do not hold up. But I love that show because of the writing and the wit and the performances.
Okay.
If it managed to hold my interest, like, with a really good writing, I can let bad special effects go.
Okay. Again, it's probably a case of research since I've only seen clips and little bits of information of the live action, but...
Alrighty, did you have anything left to add?
No, I think as it is, I might be intrigued to continue through the rest of the series to see how it ends up.
I am definitely considering watching more.
Right.
Which I don't normally do, but I enjoyed this enough that I'll probably give it another episode or two.
Well, happy that I could point out something for you to watch from anime.
Alrighty, well, I think that's going to be it for this week. I'm Paul.
And I'm Dave.
Justin, did you have anything to add?
No, because you made fun of me.
When?
I don't know.
I think it was just about always if you get an opportunity.
Well,
I remember that part you said you could probably beat me up at some point.
During the wrestling bit.
No. I said we could have a better match than the Cat versus
Cat.
Terry.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I thought you said you'd win against me.
No, I just said we could work a better match without any training.
Yeah.
Probably.
I
thought that was a challenge for some reason. It was like,
Not so much. Anyway,
Okay.
That's going to be it for this time.